Welcome back. We're continuing our reading of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita from ISKCON at Govardhana Hill, otherwise known as the Bhaktivedanta Ashram. And thank you for tuning in. We're going to continue at Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, text number 278. Parvat Muni continued, "My dear friend Narada Muni, you are glorified as a sage among the demigods. By your mercy, even a low-born person like this hunter can immediately become attached to Lord Krishna." Purport: a pure Vaishnava believes in the statements of the Shastras. This verse is quoted from the Vedic literature, the Skanda Purana. Narada Muni then asked the hunter, My dear Vaishnava, do you have some income for your maintenance?" The hunter replied, "My dear spiritual master, whoever you send gives me something when he comes to see me." Purport: this confirms the statement in the Bhagavad Gita 9:22 to the effect that the Lord carries all necessities to his Vaishnava devotee. Narada Muni asked the former hunter how he was being maintained, and he replied that everyone who came to see him brought him something for his maintenance. Krishna, who is situated in everyone's heart, says, "I personally carry all necessities to a Vaishnava." He can order anyone to execute this. Everyone is ready to give something to a Vaishnava, and if a Vaishnava is completely engaged in devotional service, he need not be anxious for his maintenance. The former hunter said, "Please do not send so much grain. Only send what is sufficient for 2 people, no more." The former hunter only wanted enough for 2 people to eat, no more. It is not necessary for a Vaishnava to keep a stock of food for the next day. He should receive only sufficient grain to last 1 day. The next day he must again depend on the Lord's mercy. This is the instruction of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. When his personal servant Govinda sometimes kept a stock of haritaki, Mairo Balan. Does anybody know what that is?
It's Ayurvedic,
Ayurvedic fruit?
which is a bitter one.
Okay, haritaki. Oh, you mean amla?
Yeah, Amla. No, it's different. Haritaki is different. It's 3.
Huh? Well, you got ChatGPT?
I don't know. A tropical tree of a characteristic pagoda shape that yields a number of useful items, including dye, timber, and medicinal products. So this is the fruit which is medicinal, and it's together with the amla and another one is made. The trifala is made from these 3. So haritaki is one. It's very bitter. It's used for digestion.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him, saying, Why did you keep a stock for the next day? Śrīla Rupa Goswami and others were begging daily from door to door for their sustenance, and they never attempted to stock their ashramas with food for the next day. We should not materially calculate, thinking, it is better to stock food for a week. Wow, it's beautiful. Thank you. Why give the Lord trouble by having him bring food daily? One should be convinced that the Lord will provide daily. There is no need to... Oh. Almost there. It's amazing what kind of havoc can happen without the light. Why give the Lord trouble by having him bring food daily? One should be convinced that the Lord will provide daily. There is no need to stock food for the next day. Narada Muni approved his not wanting more than a daily supply of food, and he blessed him, saying, "You are fortunate." Narada Muni and Parvat Muni then disappeared from that place. Thus I have narrated the incident of the hunter. By hearing this narration, one can understand the influence of association with devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu wanted to stress that even a hunter, the lowest of men, could become a topmost Vaishnava simply by associating with Narada Muni or a devotee in his bona fide disciplic succession. In this way we have found 3 more meanings of the Atmarama verse. Combine these with the other meanings, and the total number of meanings adds up to 26 in all. There is yet another meaning which is full of a variety of imports. Actually, there are 2 gross meanings and 32 subtle meanings. The 2 gross meanings refer to regulative devotional service and spontaneous devotional service. There are also 32 subtle meanings. Under the heading of regulative devotional service, there are 16 meanings based on understanding the word Atmarama to mean 1, a servant of the Lord as his personal associate, 2, a personal friend, 3, personal parents or similar superiors, 4, a personal beloved, 5, a servant elevated by spiritual cultivation, 6, a friend by spiritual cultivation, 7, parents and superior devotees by cultivation of devotional service, 8, a beloved wife or female friend by cultivation of devotional service, 9, a mature devotee as a servant, 10, a mature devotee as a friend, 11, a mature devotee as a parent and superior, 12, a mature devotee as a wife and beloved, 13, an immature devotee as a servant, 14, an immature devotee as a friend, 15, an immature devotee as a father or superior, and 16, an immature devotee as a beloved. Similarly, under the heading of spontaneous devotion, there are also 16 various associates. Therefore, the total number of devotees under the headings of regulated devotees and spontaneous devotees is 32. The word Atma refers to all the different expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Kṛṣṇa, and the others are different incarnations or expansions of Kṛṣṇa. The word Atma also includes all kinds of personalities known as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that Kṛṣṇa has unlimited expansions. This is described in the Brahma Samhita. Departure eva hidashantanam abhyupetya, dipayate vravata hetu samana dharma, yastadrageva hicha vishnutaya vibhati, govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The expanses of Kṛṣṇa are thus compared to candles that have been lit from an original candle. All the secondary candles are equally powerful, but the original candle is that from which all the others have been lit. Kṛṣṇa, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is expanded as Balaram, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudeva. In this way, there are innumerable incarnations and expansions who are called Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Regarding the variety of personalities known as Bhagavan, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswati Thakur says that the personality of Godhead known as Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that his expansions are also called the Personality of Godhead. In other words, Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the origin of all other personalities of Godhead. Speculative philosophers and mystic yogis also meditate upon the form of Kṛṣṇa, but this form is not the form of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a Bhagavan is but a partial representation of the Lord's full potency. Nonetheless, he also has to be understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To clarify this matter, one should simply understand that Kṛṣṇa, the son of Maharaj-Nanda in Vrindavan, the friend of the cowherd boys and lover of the gopis, is actually the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is attained by spontaneous love. Although his expansions are also called the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are attained only by the execution of regulative devotional service. One who always engages in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Atmarama. There are 2 types of Atmaramas. One is an Atmarama engaged in regulative devotional service, and the other is an Atmarama engaged in spontaneous devotional service. Both the Atmaramas engaged in regulative devotional service and those engaged in spontaneous devotional service are further categorized into 4 groups. They are the eternal associates, the associates who have become perfect by devotional service, and those who are practicing devotional service and are called sadhakas, of whom there are 2 varieties. Those who are practicing devotional service are either mature or immature. Therefore, the sadhakas are of two types. Since the devotees execute either regulative devotional service or spontaneous devotional service, and there are 4 groups within these 2 divisions, altogether there are 8 varieties. By executing regulative devotional service, one is elevated to the platform of an eternally perfect associate, such as a servant, friend, superior, or beloved woman. Each of these is of 4 varieties. Among those who have perfected themselves by devotional service, there are servants, friends, superiors, and beloved damsels. Similarly, there are 4 types of mature devotees. Within the category of regulative devotional service, there are also immature devotees. These are also of 4 varieties. Thus, in regulative devotional service, there are altogether 16 varieties. On the path of spontaneous devotional service, there are also 16 categories of devotees. Thus, there are 32 types of Atmaramas enjoying the Supreme Lord on these 2 paths. When these 32 types of devotees are qualified with the words Muni, Nigranta, Cha, and Api, the meanings can be increased in different ways and very soundly elaborated upon. When we add the 26 types of devotees to these 32, they altogether number 58. You may now hear from me of further manifestations of meanings. In this way, as I add the word Cha to one word after another, I make a compound. Thus, the different names of Atmaramas can be taken 58 times. In this way, one can repeat the word Atmarama with Cha for each of the 58 meanings. By following the rule previously stated and rejecting all but the last, we retain that which represents all the meanings. Of words having the same form and case termination, the last one is the only one retained. That's from Panini Sutras. When all the cha-karas, or additions of the word cha, are taken away, 58 different meanings can still be understood by the one word Atmarama. By the plural word vriksha, trees, all trees such as banyan trees, fig trees, kapita trees, and mango trees are indicated. The Atmarama verse is like the sentence, in this forest many different trees bear fruit. All Atmaramas render devotional service to Lord Krishna. After uttering the word Atmarama 58 times and taking Cha in the sense of aggregation, one may add the word Munaya. That will mean that great sages also render devotional service to Krishna. In this way, there are 59 meanings. Then taking the word Nirgranta and considering Api in the sense of sustenance, I have tried to explain a 59th meaning of the verse. Taking all the words together, there is another meaning. Whether one is an Atmarama, a great sage, or a Nirgranta, everyone must engage in the service of the Lord. Purport. The word Sarva Samuchaye is significant here. It includes all classes of men, Atmaramas, Munis, and Nirgrantas. Everyone must engage in the service of the Lord. Taking the word Api in the sense of ascertainment, there are altogether 60 different meanings. The word Api is then used in the sense of ascertainment, and then the word Eva can be uttered 4 times with 4 words. The words Urukrama, Bhakti, Ahaituki, and Kurvanti are added to the word Eva again and again. Thus another meaning is explained. Now I have given 60 different meanings of the verse, and yet there is another meaning which is also very strongly evident. The word Atma also refers to the living entity, who knows about his body. That is another symptom. From Lord Brahma down to the insignificant ant, everyone is counted as the marginal potency of the Lord. The potency of Lord Vishnu is summarized in 3 categories, namely the spiritual potency, the living entities, and ignorance. The spiritual potency is full of knowledge. The living entities, although belonging to the spiritual potency, are subject to bewilderment. And the third energy, which is full of ignorance, is always visible in fruitive activities. The word kshetragya refers to the living entity, the enjoyer, the chief, and material nature. The living entities are wandering in different species of life on different planets. But if by chance they get the association of a pure devotee, sadhu, they give up all other engagements and engage in the service of Lord Krishna. I have thus explained 60 different meanings, and all of them aim at the service of Lord Krishna. After giving so many examples, that is the only meaning. Now, due to your association, another meaning has awakened. It is due to your devotional service that these waves of meanings are arising. Waves of meaning are arising. The word Atma refers to the living entity. From Lord Brahma down to an insignificant ant, everyone is considered a living entity. Living entities are considered part of the Lord's marginal potency. All of them are kshetragya, knowers of the body. When they become nirgranta, or free, saintly persons, they engage in Lord Krishna's service. That is the 61st meaning of the verse. Aham vedmi shukaveti vyasaveti naveti va bhaktya bhagavatam grayam na bhutya na chatikaya. Lord Shiva said, I may know, Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, may know, and Vyasadeva may know or not know Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. On the whole, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, the spotless Purana, can be learned only through devotional service, not by material intelligence, speculative methods, or imaginary commentaries. Devotional service includes 9 processes, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering the activities of Lord Vishnu. Only one who has taken to devotional service can understand Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which is the spotless Purana for a transcendentalist, Paramahamsa. So-called commentaries are useless for this purpose. According to the Vedic injunction, Yasya Devi Para Bhaktir Yata Devi Tata Garau, all Vedic literatures maintain that Śrīmad Bhāgavatam has to be learned from the person Bhagavata, and to understand it, one has to engage in pure devotional service. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam cannot be understood by so-called erudite scholars or grammarians. One who has developed pure Krishna consciousness and has served the pure devotee, the spiritual master, can understand Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Others cannot. After hearing all the explanations of the different meanings of the Atmarama verse, Sanatana Goswami was struck with wonder. He fell down at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu and began to offer prayers. Sanatana Goswami said, My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kṛṣṇa, the son of Maharaj Nanda. All the Vedic literatures are vibrated through your breathing. My dear Lord, you are the original speaker of the Bhagavatam. You therefore know its real import. But for you, no one can understand the confidential meaning of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Following this statement by Srila Sanatana Goswami, we have written our introduction to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, first canto, pages 1 through 41. Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu replied, Why are you glorifying me personally? You should understand the transcendental position of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Why don't you consider this important point? Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is as great as Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Lord, and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and in each and every syllable, there are various meanings. The form of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is given in questions and answers. Thus the conclusion is established. By hearing these questions and answers, one is highly astonished. Bruhi yogeshvare Krishne brahmanye dharmavarmani swam kashtam anano pete dharmakam sharanam gata. Now that Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the Master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us by whom religious principles are presently protected. This verse from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1.123 was a question raised by all the sages, who were headed by Shaunaka. This question put before The great devotee Sutta Goswami is the foremost of the 6 questions raised. The answer to this important question is given in the next verse, also from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1.3.43. Krishna swadhamo bhagate dharma ganadi bisaha kalo nashtam drishamesha puranarko danoditaha. After Lord Krishna departed for his own abode, along with religious principles and transcendental knowledge, this Purana, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, has arisen like the sun in this age of Kali to enlighten those who have no spiritual vision. Prabhupada told one of the book distributors, Mula Prakriti Dasi in Los Angeles, that she could use this verse to distribute books. She said, just tell them this. In this way, like a madman, I have explained the meaning of just one verse. I do not know who will take this as evidence. If one becomes a madman like me, he may also understand the meaning of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by this process. Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu plainly explains that Śrīmad Bhāgavatam cannot be understood by those who are materially situated. In other words, one has to become a madman like Lord Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Apart from being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu is an acharya who exhibited love of God like a madman. According to his own written verse, Yugayatam Nimeshena, he says that for him a moment seems like 12 years. Chakshusha pravashayutam, my tears are flowing like torrents of rain. Shrunyayatam jagat sarvam, I feel as if the entire universe were vacant. Why? Govinda virahena me, due to my being separated from Govinda, Krishna. One can understand Śrīmad Bhāgavatam only by following in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu, who is mad for Krishna. We cannot, of course, imitate Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. It is not possible. However, unless one is very serious about understanding Krishna, he cannot understand Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam gives the full narration of Krishna's transcendental activities. The first 9 cantos explain who Krishna is, and the Lord's birth and activities are narrated in the 10th canto. In the Śrīmad Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Janma karma chame divyam, Krishna's appearance and disappearance are transcendental, not mundane. A person is eligible to return home back to Godhead if he perfectly understands Krishna and his appearance and disappearance. This is verified by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Chakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjana. It is therefore concluded that one has to learn about Krishna from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, and one has to follow in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Those who do not follow Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu cannot understand the Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Folding his hands, Sanatana Goswami said, My Lord, you ordered me to write a directory about the activities of Vaishnavas. I am a most low-born person. I have no knowledge of good behavior. How is it possible for me to write authorized directions about Vaishnava activities? Actually, Sanatana Goswami belonged to a very respectable Brahmin family. Nonetheless, he submitted himself as a fallen, low-born person because he had served in the Muslim government. A Brahmin is never supposed to engage in anyone's service. Serving others for a livelihood, paricharyatmakam karma, is the business of Shudras. The Brahmana is always independent and busy studying Shastra and preaching Shastra to subordinate social members such as Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. Sanatana Goswami felt unfit to write Vaishnava Smriti about the behavior of Vaishnavas because he had fallen from the Brahminical position. Thus, Sanatana Goswami clearly admits that the Brahminical culture should be standardized. Presently in India, so-called Brahmanas are almost all engaged in some mundane service, and they do not understand the import of the Vedic Shastras. Nonetheless, they are passing themselves off as Brahmanas on the basis of birth. In this connection, Sanatana Goswami declares that a Brahmana cannot be engaged in anyone's service if he wants to take a leading part in society. In Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Narada Muni states that even if a Brahmana is in a difficult position, he should not accept the occupation of a Shudra. This means that he should not be engaged in service for another, for this is the business of dogs. Under the circumstances, Sanatana Goswami felt very low because he had accepted a position of service in the Muslim government. The conclusion is that no one should claim to be a Brahmana simply by birthright while engaging in someone else's service. Sanatana Goswami then requested the Lord, please personally tell me how I can write this difficult book about Vaishnava behavior. Please manifest yourself in my heart. The writing of Vaishnava literature is not a function for ordinary men. Vaishnava literatures are not mental concoctions. They are all authorized literatures meant to guide those who are going to be Vaishnavas. Under these circumstances, an ordinary man cannot give his own opinion. His opinion must always correspond with the conclusion of the Vedas. Unless one is fully qualified in Vaishnava behavior and authorized by superior authority, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot write Vaishnava literatures or purports and commentaries on Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita. We'll take a few reflections and questions. Yes, Mahendra Prabhu.
I was thinking about Mahaprabhu's statement that why you glorify me, just look at Bhagavatam. It's the perfect Purana and each word and each syllable is full of meanings. And previously he said that I gave all these explanations and interpretations and they all lead to the service of Krishna. So I just thought that many times devotees just argue on different meanings on some verses, and but if the criteria is whether it's leading to devotional service of Krishna, then any meaning is fine because the words and the syllables are full of that meaning which leads to the service of Krishna. So we shouldn't be so fixed on whether this meaning or that meaning and then develop whatever negative attitudes toward others who have different opinion about the meaning of specific verses, and it can make it easy for us then, instead of engaging in useless debates, just to accept, yes, if it leads to service, we're happy.
Well, it sounds a little bit like Kaviraj Goswami in the Adi Leela. When he concedes, people say Supreme Personality of God could be Upendra, or some say he's Mahavishnu. All of these are correct because ultimately they are.
Yeah. I also remember that Sanatana Goswami specifically, among the other acharyas, but he does that in almost all of his tikas in the Bhagavatam. Or it can mean this, or it can mean that, and sometimes it's very different, but that's not a problem. But sometimes our minds are very linear, and we want either this or this, but there's so much varieties in the interpretation and the meanings.
Nice points.
And one more question I had about the stocking of things, which is contrary to believing or trusting that Krishna will provide. And this incident, I believe it refers to Govinda Ghosh when he was assisting Mahaprabhu just after he took sannyās. And then he said, just because you kept this for one day more, because it was very difficult to find these haritakis, so he kept a few. And the next day Mahaprabhu, bring me more, and he took it out and he said, where do you get it? Well, I kept it. Oh, you cannot keep. And because you like to keep, you should get married. So actually Govinda Ghosh married, and there's a whole story.
So it's okay for householders.
That's one thing. But the way Prabhupada explained it's for everyone. They shouldn't stock anything. But nowadays, especially, we have discussions. For example, I just came from Italy on the European RGB, and there was a presentation on communities, especially where devotees live together, to prepare and stock grains specifically for some time in emergency situations, wherever, if the war expands or something. And what would you say on that, connected with this instruction here?
Well, I'd have to look into it a little bit more as far as talking to those who have a self-sustaining community, saving seeds and things like that, because I don't have a comprehensive knowledge of everything Prabhupada said or the reasons that devotees are doing that. Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta, I read in the Śrī Bhaktisiddhānta Vaibhava, liked that devotees, when they got a windfall, to spend the money on preaching. He didn't like them to get fat and have lots of money. He wanted them to feel that we have to depend on Krishna. That's why it's nice to spend all your money on books and then distribute them all and start over. And it gives that feeling of full dependence on Krishna. When Caitanya Mahāprabhu in the Caitanya Bhāgavata has taken sannyās and he goes out wandering, he brings his followers with him, and as they begin the journey, he turned to them and said, "Did you bring anything?" And they said, "Oh my Lord, you didn't tell us to bring anything." He said, "Very good, because I want you to observe that although the universe is filled up with food and money, that people get only what they deserve, and that Krishna is sustaining us wherever we go." And once Prabhupada, I interviewed Mahāprabhu about the early days of preaching, and he said, once Prabhupada put out an edict that anybody who goes out preaching and traveling to preach, who doesn't care for personal maintenance, then I guarantee they'll go back to Godhead. I forget what the exact benediction was, but it was something extremely lofty. And he said, we all just jumped in the van in the middle of winter and took off for the north. And he tells the whole story about how they got to some tiny little town. It was in Canada. It was blizzard conditions, and there was some drunk guy, only guy on the street was drunk. He ended up buying a book. And then they wondered where to stay, and they were looking around, and they just happened to find a door, with a sign on it. They went in there, and it was full facility. Everywhere they went, they found that kind of facility. And that was the, Prabhupada's mood, sort of, as Swarup Damodar said, after Lord Chaitanya took sannyās, he said, I became mad. So Prabhupada had that kind of spiritual madness too. I heard he brought a little bag of oats or something in case there was nothing to eat. Devavrata was next. He came all the way over here because he's got something hot.
I was wondering if you could speak on this aham vedmi sukho veti.
The what?
Aham veti sukho veti.
Well, there's not a lot of clear commentaries on it, but I've heard different things. Aham vedmi sukho veti vyasa veti na veti va bhaktim bhagavata grayam na budhaya na chatikaya. This says, I know. Shukadev goes, Vyasadev may or may not know. And Prabhupada doesn't really comment on it that much, other than what we just read. He mostly comments on Buddhaya Nachatikaya. What I've heard others mention that has to do with how the flow of transcendental knowledge comes through those who act as a medium, and they may or may not have realized it all, but still they can act as an instrument to pass it on. They may or may not know. And it's specifically about Vyasadeva, because he was playing the role of a grihasta, and it's mentioned when he chased after his son that the way people reacted to him, especially the damsels who were bathing, they covered themselves with this. They didn't do it with Shukadeva. And so there was some sense of his connection to the world. Were you hoping for something else? Okay. It's a little enigmatic, but you had a point, and then Brajaras Bhavana. Okay. We have a few, and there's outside, and we're running out of time.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I see Namachintamani, I see Achinta Chaitanya, and I see an unembodied hand in the back. Go ahead.
It is mentioned that in times of emergency, like you're going on a trip, it's okay to take something, or somebody is sick, or it's the winter. It's not that's not permissible to have some provisions for those times. But when you get a new supply of anything, you have to give up the old supply. So you can't hoard, you can't accumulate. But it's okay to have a little something to get you from here to there.
It's called FIFO. First in, first out. Right? 1, 2.
Hare Krishna, Guruvan. I was also about to ask that question that Devavrata Babu has asked. I heard because Lord Shiva is Shambhu Tattva and Shuka is Jiva Tattva and Vyasa is Shakti Aves Vishnu Tattva. So he doesn't need to know something I heard. I don't know how. The question that I had is in text purport of 325. Here it says the Brahmana's main business is to study and preach, and he should not take the occupation of a Shudra. It's like a business of dogs. So most of all the devotees living outside, they're taking up a job, though they are second initiated and all that. So can you please clarify? Thank you.
Clarify what? That's the case?
So yeah, it's...
Yeah, most people are second initiated and they work. It's a very artificial kind of economy we have. It's very difficult for people to live, for instance, in New York City, Silicon Valley, or anywhere else without working and earning, not just earning a lot of money, but also getting stock options. I mean, you wouldn't be able to live near the temple or preach or anything like that to be able to do that. And so when we apply these principles, there's a way that you have to consider what your ultimate goal is also, and time, place, and circumstance. I mean, we could... Anyway, it's very... So, that's a thing. Prabhupada gave initiation to everybody. And he also encouraged people to give half of their income for preaching Krishna consciousness. Brajaras Bhavana?
I said a few reflections. From this chapter, I was reflecting on how Kṛṣṇa or Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu is very smart, and in a way that I can appreciate a little bit more. Sometimes it's a bit magical. I'm like, it's like too fantastical for me, but I was just reading this chapter. There's so many different meanings and such deep understanding, where I was really able to appreciate how intelligent and deep Kṛṣṇa is, and then also how Caitanya Mahāprabhu used Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as his reference very diligently. And sometimes if I wasn't like paying attention to my phone, like reading along, I would think that you're just talking, when it was actually what the verse was saying. And so it's another example of how we can learn from Mahaprabhu and how he spoke and explained different topics. And then in this chapter, it started off, for me at least, a little distant from what I felt was relevant to me, because like 7 definitions of this word, okay. But I think like verse 200 or so, Mahaprabhu said that like there's like these 50 different people that all can achieve the satisfaction from serving Krishna. And it's like, it's for every single person. He just kept going through all kinds of people. And it's such a wonderful way that he displayed his mood of mercy in this chapter in almost like a hidden way, or he unpacked this verse and he just showed that Krishna consciousness is for everyone, and it's very fitting that it's coming at the end of the Madhya Lila as well.
Oh, nice reflections. Really well done. Thank you. Let's go to the outside people's party. The much neglected outside people's party. Namichintamani.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. My question was very similar to the devotee who asked about devotees working outside. But you answered the question, so thank you.
Okay. And Chinta Chaitanya Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Regarding this question about Lord Shiva, Shukadeva Goswami and Vyasa, the standard explanation for that is that Lord Shiva is a person, Shukadeva Goswami is a person, but Vyasa is a post. So our Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa knows, but it's not that every Vyasa would know. That's the standard explanation for that, because Vyasa refers to a post, and it's different over different millennia. And yes. So, and regarding Mahendra Prabhu's point that, he brought up a very, very nice point that the different meanings are okay as long as they all lead to devotional service to Krishna. I just wanted to add a caveat there that the different meanings are okay as long as the meanings are coming from liberated acharyas. It's not that a sadhaka can come up with some explanation, because Shastras are not just one verse or two verses. It depends. It's a whole gamut of things, and they're all interrelated. So when it says that, different meanings are okay, in the Vaishnava tradition, it's generally the liberated acharyas who can give these different meanings which are accepted to be bona fide. And Srila Prabhupada himself alludes to this in the May 28th conversation, where this thing is about initiations come up. There is also a question about what happens to books in the future, who could do them. And Prabhupada directly replies, oh, that I have to think, something like that he says, but he clearly says, for that one must be realized. Just at these 2 points.
Thank you, very well taken. Okay, and is that Nityatarangani?
Kameshri.
Oh, Kameshri, go ahead.
I had one question from chapter 24, text 250 in the purport. I noticed it was saying about how in the previous ages, in the Vedic times, they were allowed to kill animals, but unimportant ones, or only once a month. And one line said something about you can only kill for Kali once a month. But my question is, how come nowadays a lot of Hindus, they tend to think that they can just kill animals every day, or without mercy to Kali? And I was just wondering, how come they didn't get that kind of information?
They didn't get the memo.
Yes.
Well, unless there's inculcation and there's oversight, over time, the disciplines that are given by Shastra are diminished by the time factor, and they have to be renewed. And then, of course, at different times and places, the most appropriate of those are administered by the acharyas, because, of course, there's the Manusamhita. There's a lot of information in the Manusamhita that would be prohibitive, or a lot of strictures there that would be prohibitive for us to follow in the present time place. Therefore, we have the appropriate kinds of things mentioned, thankfully, by our present acharya. But the answer is that people get lazy, and they also want sense gratification, so they make exceptions, and then the exception becomes the rule, and then they, under the banner of doing something sacred, religious, and so forth, they sanction it, and they just go on. And there are plenty of examples of that in the world, where people just do some little gesture, penance, which is hardly penance at all, so they can go on doing what they're doing. But it's perfunctory. rather than substantive. And so that's why people are lazy and they want to enjoy, and so they just do whatever they want in the name of scripture. And unless they're reined in by somebody who's powerful and can present the consequences like Narada Muni did for Bhagrari, then people are wayward in their lives. Is there a last one? Anybody else from the Outside People's Party? Well, Kameshwar, you get the last word tonight. How do you like that? Pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was extraordinary experience hearing the Atmarama verse. And I agree with what you said, Brajaras Bhavana, about it. At some point it could seem tedious, but then the effect of that tedium comes out. It's almost like the sun bursting through the clouds going, I see what he's getting at. It's a categorical description of how everybody can become Krishna conscious. It's really brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. We have one more day. Tomorrow is Ekadashi. So there's a slightly different schedule here in the ashram because they don't serve prasadam until 12. There's no breakfast. More like a brunch. So we'll start at 8. And we'll have some readings. We also have some reflections. There may be some other things. There's some prezis to the devotees who have been doing service and leading different departments that Devavrata wants to acknowledge, and that type of thing. So we'll do that all before 12. We'll do significant reading, and we'll also have time for that. So if you have specific reflections that tie things together for you from all the readings and you want to mention them tomorrow morning, that might be a good time. And if Krishna's kind and merciful to us, we can actually finish tomorrow. Otherwise, as I said, we'll have to stay up all night. Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, dear Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Śrī Panchatattva, Śrī Radha Madan Mohan, Śrī Lakshmi Nrsimhadev, Śrī Gaura Nitai, Śrī Krishna Balaram, Śrī Radhe Shyam. If you so desire, please let us remember all the meanings of the Atmarama verse. But more importantly, please let us remember the main intention of Mahaprabhu in presenting the Atmarama verse, and that we're all eternal servants of Krishna. In fact, every living entity is. And the real goal of life is attained by acting in that capacity and helping others do the same. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gaura Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Vanchakalpadrivasya Kripasinnamevacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnavindaki Jai. We are going to have the ceremonial moving of the chairs, and then we'll have this room available for the singing of the Damodar Ashtakam and offering of the lamp. I found myself today feeling a little blue because I was just thinking of how fast this experience went, the Yogya, and just thinking thinking how fortunate we are to have had the opportunity to do it. And it's good when it comes to moving to the next place and moving on, then we feel a little separation. And it went in really deeply. In any case, we have one more shot tomorrow. We have an opportunity to finish the book, which is a great achievement that we've done together, because it took about 17 to 18 days, right? 21 days? Perfect. 21 days, and we weren't going slow. It was a pretty steady and vigorous pace, don't you think?
Yeah. More so than any other year.
More so than any other year. Because I think this is the shortest amount of time we've had.
Also, we started morning sessions significantly earlier.
We started morning sessions earlier because we knew that we wouldn't make it anyway. Today, this time also, we had the new AI feature. The devotees are measuring according to the number of words. So that was really helpful, because oftentimes page numbers don't really give you an accurate computation to keep. If you have some reflections that you want to share, then we'll get started and maybe have some more in the evening tomorrow too. Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, dear Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Śrī Krishna Balaram, Śrī Radhe Shyam, if you so desire, please let us all stay in the transcendental vibration wherever we go and make this our last life here in the material world, unless we want to keep on distributing books. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer. Please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.